Welcome to episode 7 of the Armed with Knowledge podcast. Today we have Andrew Bryant. He's a friend of ours here with us today. Funny, this is our 7th episode, and this is our 3rd Andrew on as a guest.
That means Andrew is a popular. That's all that means.
I guess.
we
hang
really
out with a bunch
like
of Andrews. It gets very confusing. You know that podcast we did with Andrew?
Which one?
Yeah. So, Andrew, brother, fucking please tell us about yourself.
All right. Short and simple of the situation. So, my name is Andrew. I work at Battlefield Vegas. I've been working there for about 40.
You can pull it closer to you if you want to
put it
chill
wherever you
back.
want.
Yeah, you can be comfortable.
Okay.
You ain't got to be up.
I don't got to be okay.
Like me.
All right. So, like I said before, like everybody introduced before, my name is Andrew. I've been working at Battlefield for about 4 years, going on 5 years now. I was a Marine for 6 years, Marine Corps Infantry with 2-4. I got out, been working at Battlefield since then. I have ambitions to be a firearms instructor. That's my real passion, is instructing and teaching people how to safely use firearms and to defend themselves. That's important. I also currently run a website called the Loadout Blog, and I'm doing that on social media. I'm just trying to get more new shooters engaged.
Hell yeah.
Because we have a lot of new shooters into the community now, especially with everything that's been going on with the COVID lockdowns and everything else in between.
Everything else.
So engaging the new people and keeping them here and informing them and giving them the knowledge and the requisite tools to be successful within this industry, because it's kind of cutthroat, especially when you're new and you're trying to learn. People are kind of elitist.
Yeah.
Within the industry, like a very new, not noob friendly at all.
Right.
So I'm trying to bridge that gap where I'm just trying to give information in a common sense way to where everybody can grasp it. I'm not trying to use floaty language that they don't understand. I know it, I understand it. That's not the point. Yeah. The point is to get them in and to inform them and to educate them. And with that education, then you can start building levels, right? You got to build a solid foundation of a house, right? Before you try to build a whole house. So that's my goal.
Man, I love it. The biggest thing is the little videos that we're doing that are, just the real early stuff for people that are, or for people that are early in their firearm ownership, or, from what even guys that we know that are out there doing all kinds of crazy tactical shit that most of these new gun owners wouldn't even recognize what they're looking at.
Yeah.
Even they're telling us, like, I'm glad you guys are doing it because somebody needs to do it.
Yeah.
And like you said, that stigma of, how new gun owners feel, it creates that ego that Brighton's always talking about, where guys are like, oh, no, I know. I grew up, because there's something about an American man, like, you're supposed to know these things, or you're supposed to be good at these things. And so it's hard for people to let themselves be trained at certain points, or to admit that they don't know something. And that stigma that I'm talking about that you brought up is this, the gun community is not, like you said, noob friendly.
Yeah.
But I also see that in other communities as well. So, like, even working with horses, there's so many people, as soon as they learn a few things about horses, you can't talk to them. You can't tell them shit. Right. And they want to correct everybody on what they know about horses. It's the same thing with guns, man. Like, and it's the same thing in other communities that I've been in, that you can see all over the place, where as soon as somebody has their way of doing it, because there's different ways of doing it, that's it. Lock in. Everybody else is wrong. And if you don't already know as soon as you got here,
you're wrong.
Yeah. Right. And so, and we definitely see that in the gun community, man. And that was our big push when we got together. And which is why, like, when Brian and I were doing all that training, while we started talking to you about that stuff, like, you were doing the same thing, man. And I feel like on that same page, where it's okay not to know. Right. But it's not okay not to look for the knowledge. Correct. It's not okay to not stay in that state of not knowing. It's okay not to know, but as long as you're looking to fix it, as long as you're looking for that education, man, and that's why I love having you on here today, man. I guarantee there's going to be a lot of knowledge going out for those people today.
Yeah. I know when I first got into like when I bought my first gun and trying to figure out about my first gun, I was lucky that I worked at Battlefield.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of people guide me in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of new gun owners don't have that luxury, and it's a lot of pitfalls because AR15.com or whatever Reddit, like subreddit that you want to get into, and somebody asks a legit question because they're new, they are going to get slaughtered.
Yeah.
And it's not like, dude, at one point in time, you didn't know either. It's okay.
That's right. Yeah. That's exactly right, man. That's
okay.
Everybody started somewhere, man. And it's the same thing as like, you would hear, I even being there in that atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
you'd have a guy that had his magazines with his rounds pointed to the rear, and somebody would talk shit to him instead of like, hey, you know, and it's like you're looking at that person going, didn't you just learn that like a week ago? Like,
Right. Why don't you just help the guy out and be like, hey, check your mags.
Hey, check this out.
Right.
Or like, hey,
yourself.
or better yet, hey, is that how you draw? Like, show me how you do your shit, man. That's how you pull your magazine, because it doesn't mean they're fucking wrong. I'm sorry.
Maybe they
But
just do it that way.
maybe they got some crazy shit that you ain't never seen before, and they load that shit faster than you. Guess what?
Everybody's
Who's
just
wrong?
so quick to
You're
talk
wrong.
shit. Though. Yeah.
But that's the thing too, is, and what we talk about in our classes when we were giving classes, the same thing that we've talked about with you. There's not just the one way of doing it.
Right.
When we're talking to people about, when we bring people in that are new and beginner gun classes, beginner handgun classes, one of the very first things that we tell them is the only time that I'm going to be telling you that something is a fact, a matter of fact, is when it comes to safety. When it comes to how to operate this is how we do it. This is what works best for us. And we recommend after our class, you go see him or you go see her and see how they do it. Because how we do it is what works for us. And you never know what's going to work best for you, man, and try different things. It's the same thing as arguments over you know, how you load your magazine, how you reload, how you whatever, how you everything except for the safety aspects. Like what I'm getting at is like, matter of fact,
The gospel.
keep your finger off the trigger. You know what I mean? Like when you go that direction, that's when we're going to be matter of fact about stuff. But it's like I said, like when we talked about with you, like you have your way of doing things. I guarantee you look different doing it than I do. And that's because you've learned what works best for you. It doesn't mean that won't change down the road too.
Right.
I mean, the way that I do it now is different than I did it 2 years ago.
Right.
And different 2 years before then.
Right. Evolving. Right. So I think the trouble that people fall into, and I call it the gospels, and I'm going to try not to rain on this much. What I mean by calling the gospels is there's certain people listen to within the industry, and they take everything they say as the gospel. So like Grantham or Haley or Vickers or whoever else, or Jerry Michelick, you know what I'm saying? Whoever else, especially when it comes down to Haley and Grand, everybody takes some people takes whatever they say as gospel.
Yeah.
Like that. There is no other way to do it but the way they've been told, right?
And they almost get a cockiness off of that.
No,
Like,
people want to fight you over this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this is how you do it.
This is
It's
how-
like that works for you.
like bruh, hands up, don't shoot. So so my thing is like, yeah, like they try to attack you with that stuff, but there is more than one way to do things. Now, there's something that will never change. Fundamentals never change, and right, like you said, like the core. These are what I call like the actual core gospel fundamentals and safety. Right, those things will never ever change.
Yeah.
There's only one way to hold a pistol correctly. You know what I'm saying? There's that's going to be one way to do things, and there's in your safety rules. There's going to be a one way to get on a rifle properly. Right. There's not anything you're going to have your
in the very basics of it.
Yeah, in the very
like
basics
lining
of it.
yourself up a
Right.
certain way. Like there's more to it. That, like you said, like even putting the handgun in your hand.
Yeah.
Like this hand here, this hand here. Yes.
Yeah.
Like there's some people turn this, some people
Yeah.
but at the basic level, like what you're saying,
Yeah.
I just want to clarify that to people that are listening.
yeah.
Like at the basic level, 100% you're on it.
So that's my thing. Like you can't. There's so much to learn from, and the thing that I feel like people need to do within the firearm industry. This is everybody, and I think a lot of people do it. I think the people who support them get kind of tribalistic about the gospels. Right? Is that you'll see Grantham learn from Milspec Mojo, learn from Haley, they kind of intermingle with each other because they're learning from each other. Right?
Right.
You have to be humble and willing to learn in the industry to get anywhere because there's so much to learn about shooting and learn about firearms in general. You think you know, you have no idea.
Yeah. I've said that so many times.
And the thing about it is that working at Battlefield humbled me to that that perception. Because when you're in the military, you know, especially if you're a grunt or something like that, you know the core weapon systems, right? You're gonna know your M16, M4s, right? Your SAWs, your 240s, you know, your Mark 19s and stuff like that. You're gonna know those core weapon systems inside and out.
Belt-fed machine guns,
right?
AR-15, maybe a couple others, and there's very few Army grunts. I don't know if it's the same with the Marines, but I'm sure we didn't do much with pistols, man. No, and we certainly didn't do draw fire exercises with pistols. If we did any training with pistols, it was doing a simple stand in place, move forward, stand. Like it wasn't very tactical, and it, like I said, it wasn't a draw fire, and there wasn't like any situational awareness stuff with it. Like as just the majority of grunts didn't even run a freaking pistol.
No, I didn't run a pistol at all. The only people that in the Marine Corps that had access to pistols were like 31s, 41s. So that'd be our machine guns and our mortarmen, officers, staff NCOs. And that's pretty much
it was the same thing. Grunts in the Army, man. Like now as like 240 gunners, snipers, like you're supposed to. But depending on your unit, whether you even were.
Right.
So, you know, high speed units, man, anything under 18th Airborne Corps with a lot of money, like their snipers had pistols. But not even all their 240 gunners had pistols. Some of them did.
Oh, okay.
But I have a funny question regarding that we all worked at machine gun ranges in Las Vegas.
Okay.
What occupation in the world do you think handles the most firearms?
Oh. I don't know.
Like the most in quantity of variety?
I wouldn't say so much variety, but like the functionality constantly, repetitiously, like you're fucking working the firearm. Like
actually working, because I guess
that was kind of a not really thought out joke, or
no, I mean,
sorry guys,
I get what's going. I think we're all sitting here going like, I mean, I want to say machine gun range in fucking Vegas, but
range safety officer.
Before I say RSO at a machine gun range in Vegas, what else is there? Like,
like I'm thinking of
what else handles firearms like that?
I know that guns don't get beat up the way that they do
at machine gun
ranges in Las Vegas.
Maybe if you were a tester for a machine gun company, I mean, that's the only other one. But even then, man, we handle a lot of fucking guns.
Now, are we talking about just our core weapon systems that we had in the Army, or are we just talking about the whole?
No, we're talking about like functioning guns. A firearm, like in your hands. You're doing shit with it the whole time.
I think variety.
Machine gun ranges.
Well, I mean,
especially with
for sure.
Especially at a place like Battlefield.
For sure. Yeah.
I've been a range safety officer at Battlefield for 4 years now, and I handle, man, I don't know how many weapons I handle.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Clearing, unloading, reloading. So a lot of them are the same weapon systems, right? Because, you know, at Battlefield, one of our popular packages is the Black Ops package. You know what I'm saying? So I'm running MP5 Uzi, M4 AK all day, every day, right?
Yeah, but you do get the taste of the classic guns.
Yeah.
You get the sniper rifles. You get all of the belt fits. Right. Like, you have the opopportunity for those customers.
So that package is a perfect example, because you have an open bolt machine gun. You got a closed bolt, locking on, you know, you have such a variety in that. When you have like the AK and the MP5, they don't have last round bolt catches. Like you have the difference in that one little package, the variety of understanding those guns as well as you do.
Right.
Just those four. Mm-hmm. There's not a gun that you wouldn't know how to pick it up and figure it out.
That's true, and that's the best. That's been one of the blessings about working there. I've been able to handle like everything. We have guns from World War I all the way up to now.
Yeah.
So
even pre-World War I.
Yeah, even pre-World War I. So I've had a chance to handle a lot of different weapon systems and machine guns. And me in that time doing that, I have very concrete opinions about weapon systems, right? So there's
because you developed them yourself. You have a more solid opinion because you went through it. Yeah. It's not
that's what I was saying earlier. There's definitely with my experience in the machine gun range, nothing beats up a gun more than a tourist machine gun range. Yeah. I mean, those guns weren't designed to do that because there's not any military service that does that to a gun that does that to any gun.
Right.
So today we got some interesting stuff to talk about, man. We got some things that are going to be making history soon, possibly, and things that have happened recently that are worth the talk and history book, that are going to be going down and probably be talked about for a while. There's some things that have happened recently that are paving the way for some big changes, man. And I'm going to go ahead and say it, man. It's there's a slippery slope, and as much as people who are for gun control like to laugh at that phrase, slippery slope is not a joke, man. It's real.
Yes, there's a slippery slope because of this simple reason. The concepts are on their face might be good, right? But you give any man power, he's going to corrupt it and use it to his own will, right?
Absolutely.
That's the problem that you have with these situations. What's been happening lately over the last decade plus has been an erosion of rights. And I'm not just talking about 2A rights. I'm mainly talking about 1A and 2A rights, right?
That's right.
You can't really say what you want to say anymore, even though we have Communication Bill 230 and stuff like that, but I won't get into that because that's a different topic. But there's just been an erosion of rights over time that's dangerous, right? Because now we're saying that our Constitution doesn't mean much, right? Our founding fathers gave us these rights because they knew that these rights were core to our humanities, right? And should be inalienable, right? Nobody should be able to.
That's why they're the first and the second one,
right? These rights should be inalienable and they should be guaranteed to the populace, right? It is not, it's not the government working. The government works for us. It's not the other way around. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Right. No, these are put in place to keep the government working for us.
Right.
Like the reason that the first two amendments are as strong as they are and are as important as they are is because that's what those first two are really what gives us the freedom to be able to be who we are and do what we do. Like now you have like the rest are very important.
Correct.
Like what is it? The 10th is being able to conduct business and be able to move freely, right? Mm-hmm. Like those are also very important. Right. That's inalienable, like you said, right? But especially with using fear, which is always using fear. Right. I mean, this is what happened in the UK. This is why the gun control, and Australia. This is why the gun control is like it is. You can name it by incident every time that they lost more of their gun rights, by every incident that they used, and they exploited incidents just like they try to do here.
Right.
And so that's where the slippery slope comes in, man, because it's just a bump stock. I don't want one of those. I don't care. It's not quite a gun yet. Like I don't plan on doing that anyways. I'm okay with them changing that. Right. You're okay with something changing
because it doesn't affect you yet.
Because it doesn't affect you yet. Right. It's the same thing with people saying like, well, I don't see a use for an AR-15, so why would I care if I'm not allowed to have one anymore?
Right.
That's the same dangerous steps. Mindset, right. That's the same dangerous mindset. My biggest thing on this is it's a false sense of security to go after say what is considered an assault rifle. There's a false sense of security of going after that because there's like less than 1% of the people that are killed with firearms are killed with AR-15s.
Right.
So if that's not what's actually killing hardly any of the people killed with gun deaths, why are you going after that one? It's because you can. It's because it's a bit of control that you can get. What people don't understand is that false sense of security that you might feel now by having that right taken away from people. Mm-hmm. What happens 100 years from now? What happens even 150, 200 years from now? It wasn't that long ago that we had a civil war. It wasn't that long ago that we even became a country ourselves. Mm-hmm. So we've only been around a couple hundred years as it is.
Right.
Right. So the same people that are saying like you'll never have to defend yourself against your government are the same ones that went ape shit about Trump being president.
Correct.
They lost their minds. They were saying that it's over. Mm-hmm. The whole world's going to come. Okay, they're the same ones that are gonna sit here and say right now, like, you don't think 100 years from now that we would need to defend ourselves from a tyrannical government? You don't know. So you're gonna take the rights away from those people from being able to defend themselves for a false sense of security today, and that's my biggest thing on the attack on the Second Amendment for me. I mean, there's more to it than that, obviously.
Right.
But.
Yeah, there's levels to it, right? And there's complexities to it. But yeah, that tyranny is the thing that the founding fathers put these amendments in place to stop, right?
That's right.
So because they had to deal with the king, right? King Henry. They had to deal with King Henry, right? So and the stuff that, British Parliament was doing to them, right? That they thought was just unjust, right? Because they wanted to be recognized and have representation within the Parliament, which they didn't have, right? Which is another long story,
right?
But so that's why they always wanted to make sure we had representation. But the things that they didn't want to replicate here.
That's right.
Right. So they put these things in place to stop that from being replicated.
To keep the control in the people's hands.
Right. To keep control in people's hands. And the people are giving it away, right? And they're eroding it away because they're, like you said, it's an illusion of false sense of safety, right? Yeah. A prime example of a false sense of safety that we'll all get, the little personal minesweepers we had when we were in country, right? Those, I remember so many times we would visually find IEDs before those things were ever find anything. Yeah. And we got to the point where we stopped using them because it was an illusion of safety.
Yeah.
Right. That we found out that our eyes and finding out the visual cues and looking at how they laid IEDs and stuff like that was a better marker indicator. We found more IEDs doing that
than by using this device that was designed to
find them, right? So it's that false sense of security. Same concept applies here. It's that false sense of security. Now, once you hit that slippery slope, once you let a freedom away, the government's never going to give it back to you.
No,
it's never going to give it back to you. It's
not unless it's written like we were like a 10-year thing.
Right. Once you relinquish that freedom, and this is what people miss. Yeah. Once you relinquish your freedom, the government's not going to give it back to you. They're not. That's not the way governments work. Right. That's why we still have taxes on the books that were supposed to be taken off the books years ago after a project was completed or something else was completed.
That's right.
Right. Because they gonna get that money, dog. That's the only way they gonna get that money. Right. So these things have to.
Well, that's why those things they're not being written correctly, and that's the problem. So the same thing here locally in Las Vegas. So here in Las Vegas, every few years we have to vote to have the extra taxes taken out of our gas to go towards working on the streets.
Right.
That wasn't just a one-time vote and it's good forever. There's a reason that we don't do that. There's a reason that you have to keep voting to keep that in place, because at some point it'll become obsolete, or everybody will decide like this isn't benefiting us like it used to, or whatever it is.
Right.
So the absolute things, like you said, like absolutely taking something away, it'll never come back. You're not going to get that back.
Right.
And that's only going to be another step. And that's where that, like you said, like it comes to slippery slope, because it's going to slowly gain more and more momentum. And it's going to they're going to take more and more and more, because they take this, they're not going to give it back. They're going to only look for the next thing they can take.
Right.
And it's all about control. It's 100% about control.
Right. It's he who has the guns is he who has the power. Right. So that's the reason why our founding fathers wanted the right to defend themselves, because they didn't have a right to defend themselves. The British folks could just come into their house and say, "Hey, we stay in here, feed us."
Yeah.
There's not much they can do about it. Right. They weren't allowed to have firearms to defend themselves. Right, when the British were occupying and ruling, that's the only thing they seen these things, they experienced these things. So they weren't just taking, they weren't just looking from the future. They were taking from current experiences. Right.
That's right.
They said, "This is what happened to us. To make sure this doesn't happen again, this is the things that we need to do." Right. And there was a fight about some of the amendments when they were first getting proposed. Some people didn't even want to do the amendments. Right. They thought the Constitution was enough.
Yeah.
Right.
They believed that would be held.
Right.
In its own regard,
right? But some people during the Congress and stuff like that said, like, no, this is not enough. We need more to protect these things.
Yeah.
Because yes, this is good foundation. We need to have some
solid,
some safeties in there, right, to make sure
to cover the gray areas,
right?
Yeah,
right. And I know people get into the whole situation with trying to dissect the Second Amendment, and like. My biggest thing with the Second Amendment was talking about, oh, well, it's only for militias and stuff like that. The wording of that does say that. I'm not denying that it say a well
organized
militia. Thank you. It does say that in the wording, right? But it says shall not be infringed.
Right.
Your rights to own
shall
firearms
not be infringed. Well, the rights, yes, but it is separated.
Right.
You know, it is separated. It's like a continuum. Like, so I just said you're trying to cover the gray areas, and they created one.
Right.
Because it's not separated with a semicolon.
Right.
It's separated with a comma.
Right.
And so, you know, as you read, and you gotta think how they spoke back then. It ain't how we talk today.
Correct.
So I say that as I'm like, ain't how we talk. It's funny, right? So, you have to read it as they meant for it to sound for them, for their ears, what they're used to, and their perspective there. We have different perspective of how words are used.
Right.
So where as you're wording this, a well-regulated militia, that's not zeroed in on how many fucking people make a well-established, well-organized, whatever. It doesn't. Right. It doesn't matter. You in your house are your own militia as an individual protecting your home.
Right.
I mean, there isn't anything to say what you can consider. Right. You're not classifying anything, because at the end of the entire statement, shall not be infringed. Right.
That's why a lot of people in the 2A community that's deeply entrenched in, like, shall not be infringed. Like, that's what it goes down to, because the example I like to use, which people do not like to use in this, because they say they don't equate, but it does equate. Let's look at the First Amendment, right? First Amendment, we have a right, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, right? That's simply our freedom of speech has been eroded, right? We're not allowed to say certain things.
Absolutely, 100%.
We're not allowed to say certain things, right? So freedom of speech has been eroded. Freedom of religion has kind of been eroded too, because if you ain't practicing the right religion, you're practicing the wrong religion, right? And then the freedom of press, let's not even get into them right now. So that's another. But
it is. But you're right. Yeah. Because with the freedom of press, look at how many people are fired from their jobs for not saying the exact right, or saying what they believe in,
right?
Saying what they're seeing happening in the street, and they report it that way, and they lose their job over it.
Yeah.
Right. Or that entire channel is scrutinized, and
good old censorship. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And then so now they have to be mindful of what they're saying. Like,
right. It shouldn't be that way.
It should not be that way. Right. Listen, man, I don't care if you're talking about how much you hate children. Like, that's your right to fucking hate children, okay? Right. You're not threatening to hurt children.
Right.
Like, if it bothers you that much, or hate my race, hate your race, like whatever. You have a right to express that you hate a certain type of person, or that you hate. You have every right to.
Yeah, you do.
And
I'll defend it.
And that's right.
I'll defend it.
That's right. You would stand there if somebody can say how much they hate black people, and you would fight to the death to defend their right to do that.
Right.
I believe that wholeheartedly.
Right. I will.
And it's the same thing as, you know, we a long time ago I had my truck was vandalized. You remember, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a few years ago, my truck was vandalized. Somebody carved murderer across the side of my truck. Ever since then, I've made sure there was nothing military on my truck ever again. Because I've just figured maybe that's what it is.
Right.
And if I have anything military on my truck, it's a nod at other veterans. It's not my ERB, my whole enlisted records brief showing you where I was and what I did and what my MOS was like. If I have something on there, it's a symbol that only somebody who knows what that symbol recognizes.
They have the end.
It's a nod, like, hey man, I'm here. I'm here. You're not alone.
Yeah.
And that's what like the last one I had on my last truck. All I had was a little 1B in the corner, right? So that if any other Army grunts ever saw it, like, it's just a nod. Hey man, I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, and nothing said Army infantry, and and I'm not talking shit, but I am. But I mean, everybody's got their own thing, man. They got their own thing, man. But so anyways,
right.
My truck was vandalized for it. And I mean, that's the only thing I can think of what it was, right? Because my license plate had the Army thing and the airborne thing on it. That's the only thing I can think of. So, I remember, you know, people talking about the rage. Yeah, dude, when I walked outside, the feeling that I had was pretty crazy. It was a crazy feeling. And I think within moments, because Trevor was like, I think the first, Matt was the first person I called.
Yeah.
Trevor was the next person I called. Mm-hmm. Hey, Trevor, you're not going to believe this, man. It almost made me sick to my stomach because it was such a fucking jumble of emotions.
Right.
Yeah.
But Trevor, I think the first thing I told Trevor was like, thank God I didn't catch this person doing this, man. Because the story would have got flipped. Instead of a veteran's vehicle was fucking vandalized by somebody who it would have been veteran goes crazy and kills somebody or put somebody in the hospital. Like it would have been switched. The narrative would have. I remember telling him like, oh my God, I'm so glad I didn't catch this person doing this shit, man. Because now I have like when I first came out, that feeling was weird, dude. Like my body got hot, but it was fast enough for me to chill the fuck out, you know. And to kind of shorten that story as much as possible, like the last thing I wanted to do was go to the press. I just wanted to call the insurance company, get rid of it, make it go away, and end this. But a friend of mine, Cole, was like, "No, bro, you got it. If this is something that's happening, you need to be the one to bring this to light and like show that this isn't acceptable. Like if this is something that's like stirring up and becoming a new thing." Right. So we did. Well, luckily it wasn't. And the response that we got from this town was amazing. It was amazing. It was. And so it didn't actually need to go on the news like that. But you know, if there is a benefit from that, we're going way off subject right now. But if there's a benefit from that, it's that people got to see that this town backs them up. Veterans, they back these veterans up. You don't have to boast about what you did and where like. They got your back, man. This town's got your back.
Yeah, you don't need your DD-214 on your tailgate.
Yeah.
Like,
anyway,
that
is the perfect way of saying it.
You don't
that's so
need
funny.
it on there. And
so yeah, that's the whole point when I brought that whole shit up.
Yeah.
The whole point is this person had something that they believe in, and they were voicing something that they truly believed in.
Right.
And they attacked my truck for it. Listen, like I was saying about what you just said, I am all about you exercising your First Amendment right to tell the world that you disagree with the job that I used to have.
Right.
However you feel about that job. Fuck it. I mean, there's a lot of people that feel that way. You're not alone in that feeling. But to attack somebody with that is where you've crossed lines. Like thank God I didn't catch you doing it because I would have had a very bad reaction to that. I would have reacted to that.
Right.
But again, I would put my life on the line to defend your right to talk about me that way.
Right.
100%, man.
So when it comes down to the amendments, I'm pretty much an absolutist, right? Because you have to be an absolutist for the most part, because you can't, once you take away one person's right, even if it may be small, let's go hate speech, right? There's First and Second Amendment correlations here. So let's say hate speech, right? So the moment I take away one person's hate speech, I am restricting their right to their First Amendment, right? That's
right.
So I am impeding their rights, right? So you have to be. I know it's kind of sucky and it's like shitty that you have to be that way, because I understand hate speech sucks and all other stuff, speech and all these other things that you can be offensive with. Speech sucks, but you have two ways you can approach it, right? And this is what I feel about the First and Second Amendment. All of this, you have to be absolutist, because as soon as you give them that leeway to take from you, there's no getting it back. Right, it's gone. Kiss it goodbye. It ain't coming back unless it's through violent revolution. Right, that's the only way it's going to come back to you. And people don't understand that you have to be. It's not about being politically correct all the time, about doing the right thing all the time, and not engaging in people's fear. Right, fear is just something that we have to learn how to deal with, and it takes courage. That we're taught in the military, right? Or in life, if you have good parents and stuff like that, to have you address your fears and face them with courage, right? That's the only way you're going to address these things. But you have to be an absolutist, because as soon as you restrict somebody's rights, it's going to come back and get you. Absolutely. Bite you in the butt.
And that's what people don't understand is when they're even you got politicians talking about putting people on a list who voted in a different way than what. Like you can get away with saying that right now. You can get away with saying that somebody should be put on a list.
She can get away with saying that.
But that's what I'm saying. There's more than just
AOC.
her. Yeah. So there's more than just her. I mean, there's more.
She was one of the prominent ones.
But she's the one that it blew up.
Right.
So, but it's the same thing.
Yes, it is.
If somebody was saying that about what they believe, what she believed in, you're
be an uproar.
talking about putting people on a list. Like
Yeah.
it would be the same thing. There's so much hypocrisy.
Right.
Yeah.
But I see it on both sides, man.
Yeah.
You see it on both sides. They want to.
They want power. That's what they want.
That's right, 100%.
They
It's
just
about
want power.
control, man.
It's about control.
So you scare people out of their freedoms,
Correct.
so that you gain control, and that's what we're watching happen constantly, man.
Right.
And with the Second Amendment, let's go into because I think we can go into something pretty valuable here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the recent ATF raid.
Okay. Which one we're talking about? The one that happened with
Polymer80.
There's been a few within the last couple months, so we got to.
Yeah.
Well, so most recently the Polymer80
got raided last Thursday.
Last Thursday morning.
Thursday.
Yeah.
The news dropped on Friday, right? So I covered it on my website. The news dropped last Friday. It got raided on Thursday. So what happened with the Polymer80 raid was not trying to. Okay, what happened with the Polymer80 raid? There was a year-long investigation by the ATF, from the ATF, from the affidavit of the warrants that the ATF submitted. That I read some of them that I read today. It's been a year-long investigation. They were after the buy, build, shoot kits that they sell, right? Because the ATF, which I do not agree with, classified it as a firearm because you get everything in the kit to make the firearm.
Right.
When they first looked at the pieces individually do not make a firearm.
And I agree with you, and that's the point I was going to get to. Second point I was going to get to, there's no way you can assemble that buy, build, and shoot kit. For me to consider this a firearm is that means as soon as it gets shipped to my door, it is ready to shoot.
That's right.
That is,
I agree with you.
Yep. It is ready to shoot. There is no way you can physically assemble that Polymer80 buy, build, and shoot kit as it stands. No way.
No way. Now, you know what they have. A lot of like if you read the articles on one side, it's a different story from the articles on the other side, which is how everything is, right?
Correct.
So, which is important to read both sides.
Correct. It is.
Okay. And it goes back to what we were talking about before. If you don't want to hear what somebody has to say, now you're just blatantly ignorant.
Right.
Right. So when you read like what New York Times covered or on like Yahoo when it popped up, like any of those, they talk about ghost gun, which is a term that they made up.
Right.
The media made up this term ghost gun, and politicians that jumped on it as soon as they did. And what they're talking about is they've classified anything that doesn't have a serial number. So a stolen gun that has a serial number ground off of it.
Ghost gun.
That's a ghost gun. So yeah. Yeah. So a gun that somebody made in their garage is a ghost gun.
Ghost gun.
Right. Yeah. So where they've created this big scary name for it.
Correct.
And now that when they talk about it in these articles, they now relate Polymer80
to ghost guns.
To every ghost gun that was ever created.
Correct.
So any cop that's ever been shot by a ghost gun, any kid that was harmed by anything that's ever happened with a ghost gun, they're now attributing to Polymer80.
Right. You know what they call that? Political opportunism.
That's right. Well, it's posturing. So
it is posturing.
And so
and you're correct, right? Also.
Yeah. And so the story's getting twisted to where yes, I agree with you. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I agree with you.
Right.
Polymer80 is really pushing their shit by the way they named it, of all things.
Yes. Buy, build, shoot kits. Yeah.
You buy, build, and shoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're pushing your shit, man.
Yeah.
And here, but at the same time, screw you if I'm pushing my shit. Like, what if I'm pushing the limits of what you're going to let me do? Screw you. I get it. I get both sides of this. As far as what we were talking about before, like yeah, man, like you were really pushing your luck on this. Yeah, but screw you and my luck. Like they were still not doing anything different than before they called it that. Other than, so they added there, because there's other companies that are doing it too. They didn't name it that. And so now it made it this more.
They simplified it for you.
Well,
instead of you purchasing a bunch of different
they made it
stuff,
easy
they made a package.
They made it easy for the other side to demonize it.
Yes.
Is what they did.
Truthfully, yes.
So I agree with you. And that's my thing with I have no problem with the buy, build, shoot kits. And like I said, the ATF, per their definition, which I did look up, per their definition, I don't feel like it fits into a firearm. Now, this is the one loophole of the definition, right? This is where I think they come and get them at. And this is where I think they did get
But
them.
they haven't charged anybody with anything.
They haven't charged anybody with anything. So I can get more into that, into the affidavit stuff. I have it on I can just pull up the article that I wrote about today.
Okay.
And we can get more into the affidavit stuff. For the warrant to get there, it was not looking too good for Polymer80 on some of the stuff that they were doing.
Okay.
But that's neither here nor there at this moment in time. But so when it comes down to the buy, build, and shoot kits, I feel like where the ATF got them at is that anything. Let me look up the definition here. So,
hey, while you're looking up that definition, in all marketing aspects, Polymer80 is probably going to thrive after this.
They're thriving now because even before, so when the initial drop of the raid happened last week, their stuff started flying off the shelves.
I bet.
Because
negative publicity is publicity.
It wasn't even the buy, build, shoot kits.
It was just the regular Polymer80
just the
frames,
lower.
Yeah, it was just the frames.
Yeah. Well, they even were selling fully assembled, serialized firearms.
Oh, well, they started
doing that.
and they were selling them for cheap.
They're like $500. So, from what I understand, I could be wrong on this, and I know somebody might correct me. This is the internet. From what I understand, they did the serialized stuff so people could use them for 3-gun events. That was one of the reasons why they did it, to make it more legitimized.
Right. Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
So that's one reason why they went through that whole ATF process and started making their own pistols. I felt like it kind of defeated the purpose. Like that defeats the purpose of a Polymer80.
But if people are going to buy it because of what it is,
right?
Right.
So
expansion.
Hold on here. I'm sorry, I got distracted by trying to make a point here.
Because originally Polymer80 was a polymer base that you would take your Glock slide on and put all of your internals.
Yeah. Right, because it's running off basically a Gen 3 Glock, right? It's running off a Gen 3 platform of Glock. All right, so this is the ATF definition of firearm. The term firearm means any weapon, including a starter gun, which will or is designed to or may readily be converted. See, this is where they got them. Readily be converted to expel a projectile by the action of an explosion. They got them where readily be converted to.
Yeah, but
that's where they got them. I don't agree with it.
They also wrote about Polymer80 previously to their 80% lower.
Right.
They wrote themselves in a letter that this is not a firearm as defined in the GCA. So consequently, the aforementioned item, which is the PF 940C, right?
Right, the full size one, right?
Right. The item are therefore not subject to GCA provisions and implementing regulations. Mm-hmm. So they're only going back on what they said previously. So because they've already said that it's not considered a firearm.
Right. This is what I don't like about the ATF. They like to use very ambiguous language, right? So they can roll stuff back.
Well, and see, here's the thing is, this is, and I guess I don't want to go too far away from our main focuses on everything, but there's just, on my opinion, I'm going to express some of my opinion here. There's these 3-letter agencies, these federal 3-letter agencies like ATF, DEA, BLM, Bureau of Land Management, BLM. They got way too much power, man. It's like taxation without representation. They can write whatever rules they want, and they can fine you whatever decided number that they want to, and they can change that shit anytime they want to.
Right.
So there's no representation to the control that these guys have. Right. Now, we know that they lie about shit because they've been caught doing it so many times, and we know that things get out of hand. But we only know about it when people are armed to the teeth to defend themselves against them.
Yeah, when it becomes a big problem.
We only know about it when Ruby Ridge or Waco or Bundy, the Bundy Ranch out here.
Yeah.
These are the incidents that we know about. And you know, and why we know about them is because people were standing armed to protect themselves from the tyranny of these 3-letter agencies that were overstepping their bounds. In every one of those incidences, they were overstepping their bounds.
No.
Now you look at the same agency that convinced a man to cut a barrel down shorter when he first said that he wouldn't do it. They talked him into it and then tried to charge him for the shit.
Oh yeah.
They're the same ones that they tried to get. What did they implemented a sting operation on the Polymer 80, correct? Where they had a felon try to buy this thing. So you guys are creating an illegal situation yourself, right? To try to push a narrative. You're an enforcement agency. You shouldn't have a fucking narrative. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you. So my thing with the ATF, and we talk about this a lot when it comes down to work, when it comes down to Polymer 80 or the Q honey badger situation, is this is what I feel. The ATF has too much power, and their ambiguous language is to get people to catch you in a trap like they do in Star Wars. It's a trap, you know what I'm saying? They're trying to catch you in a trap, right? And my thing is that the ATF needs to one power needs to be reduced, right? They need to have clear guidance and language on rules already in place, right? So no changes, nothing. Don't change shit, right? I already don't like what's in place now, right? There needs to be clear verbiage, understanding between these firearms companies and the ATF, because some of these people are trying to work within the law. They're trying to work with the ATF, and the ATF is just fucking with them, right? Won't give them clear answers, won't give them anything to go by to get uniformity, right?
Well, and it changes based on who's running the organization.
That's correct.
So now you have somebody else running the organization, and they're going to read into it totally different. So now you're breaking the law,
right?
Because one person changed in a powerful position, they decide that you're breaking the law when the guy before that didn't. Like that's how fast it can change. It's just not right. Like you said, like if it's written correctly, and instead of being in these damn letters that now have to be circulated through the public, like that's not how you represent the people.
It's not, and the ATF should be about represent. Well, the ATF should be working for us essentially because they work for us because they work for the government. But the thing about it is that they're working. I feel like they're trying to criminalize law-abiding citizens.
Yeah.
For no reason, right? Because what do you after one? You're already infringing on their right to own firearms. Yeah. One, their government is, depending on what state they're in, California, New York, Washington State. We're gonna throw out some names there. Washington State's getting over time they have been, but New York, California.
Wait a minute, Chicago. Well, like look at Chicago or even Detroit. Like as power shifts there, things start opening up for people. People are starting to defend, like being like in Chicago. You had for a short period of time a few years ago. They started issuing out like CCWs, and they started. There was a short period of time where like that was a thing, and that's gone away now.
Yeah.
Like so now, you have people that cannot see. They can't see, or they refuse to. I'm sorry. They refuse to see that the places with the strictest gun control are still the most dangerous places in the country.
Yep. Right.
And so. Who's being restricted? It's the government restricting law-abiding citizens.
Yes, it is the government.
And this is an argument that like when people are talking from fear that was created by the media to scare them into pushing for stricter gun laws and things, they're using numbers that work for them at the right times. So when you're pushing fear and you're lying about it, you obviously don't have enough to go on your own. Because when you compare things to like, well, look at the UK only has this many violent crimes a year. Okay. The UK is the size of one of our goddamn states.
Yeah.
So you're comparing all of our violent crimes to their violent crimes, and they're a tiny little fraction of our size. Right. Now, when you start using per capita numbers, we're doing better than they are.
Right. Yeah,
our home invasion rates are nothing compared to the way that they are in the UK.
Right.
When you look at per capita numbers, but it's the same thing that you'll see with anything like what she said, like it's political opportunism to use the numbers to benefit you to scare people out of their rights. Right. And it's the same when I'm talking about people refusing, they refuse to look at the other side of things. Right. It's the same as when you have people who have a different political view than the kids that go to this college. They refuse to listen to what that person has to say. Right. Of all people when we're talking about progressives, Obama gave a speech saying that you got to listen to the other side.
Right.
Even
if you
President even if President Obama is telling these college kids, you're not listening to the other side, you're not learning anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you refuse to let them on your campus to come talk to you, then you're not going to learn anything. You're only going to be stuck in, what is it called when you
your echo chamber?
Echo chamber.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I blew my mind to hear him say it, because as what I'm seeing most of all with like the progressives who believe that taking your guns away
is the right thing to do.
Is the right thing to do, and restricting hate speech is the right thing to do, and taking away people's rights in this direction, they won't, like you said earlier, they can't see, they refuse to see that that's going to flop. So the same people that are trying to give all this power to the federal government are the same ones that are losing their mind when somebody wins the presidency that they don't like. Right. But they refuse to look at the actual facts and the actual numbers. They don't want to hear it.
Right.
As soon as what I notice on a regular basis, if I'm trying to have a discussion with somebody that's all for gun control, more often than not, it leads to calling me names. And all I did was say, just give facts. That just told the truth. Or I have an opinion about things. It leads to name calling almost every time. Not every time. There are times that we were at the pool one time having a discussion with these gals that were from Seattle, of all places, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But when I explained the same thing, by the end of our conversation, they stood there and they said, like, you know what? I've never heard somebody say it that way. I can see your side of it. I still think that they stuck with it, but I feel like that rarely happens anymore.
No, because nobody wants to listen to the other side anymore.
Yeah,
right?
everybody's so up to defend their position.
Right. Is this more? I like politics, and when it comes down to our rights and the way people think in America, it has become a very religious thing, right?
Yeah.
Where people are just kind of like,
well, they've chosen to identify now, like,
right.
Your identity is part of where you stand politically now.
Correct. So there's like, so essentially it's becoming a religion. Like, if you don't believe like me, you are wrong, right?
Right.
They don't, people, this what blows my mind. The amount of ignorance that's in this world right now. So we have the most information at our fingertips that any other generation or time period for human history. We have literal the summation of human knowledge at our fingertips, aka our overlords at Google and et cetera, right?
Now, that's what I was just going to bring up. Now, when you try to Google something about, like, say, I don't know, but I bet if you try to Google the Polymer 80 thing, the first ones you're going to get are the ones that are talking about ghost guns.
The first three were like New York Times, CNN.
So you have to dig a little deeper.
You have to dig a little bit deeper, but
it's there.
But it's there. My whole point is that we have this summation of human knowledge at our fingertips, right? And the amount of ignorance that is out there is mind blowing to me, because
it's blatant ignorance, man.
It is because people don't want to do the work.
Yeah, they know it's there. They can easily get it.
It's not that they just don't want to do the work.
And
when you identify with something, like when you have a politician who's pushing for restrictions on people's lives, but then doesn't follow through with those restrictions on their own, and they get caught doing it, you still have people that are threatening the people that expose this person, because they have created such a strong identity with what that person stands for and where that person stands politically. You're now attacking their identity, and so their ego's tied up in their politics. And so, anytime you identify with anything, it's the same thing with Marines talking shit with Army back and forth, because you self-identify as this because you lived their creed, you lived their. I mean, they do it to us on purpose. That's what they do. Is you follow through, like the few, the proud. I mean, you wear that shit with pride while you're doing it, man. And in the Army, it was whatever, it was whatever MOS you are versus that. I mean, it always works that way, man. You have an identity that you put into whatever it is that you're doing, man. look at if somebody that drives Chevys their whole lives, they'll get in all kinds of arguments with people that driven Fords their whole life.
Yeah.
Because they self-identify with the bow tie versus that, you know what I mean? Like there's an identity that their ego gets involved.
I get you.
So now when you have a way of life and you have this progressive movement or you have this, like any ideology that people now self-identify with and they have a name for it and they call themselves that, there's that sense of identity now that you're attacking
them personally.
When you're attacking them personally, they don't realize that that's why they feel the way that they feel.
Right.
But they're now defending this person because you're attacking their identity because they've just invested all these arguments that they've had with their mother on why this politician is right. So now somebody else is proving the politician is wrong. You just attacked everything that they've done for the last how many months defending that person.
Right.
They take it personally. And instead of the open-mindedness of the conversations like you and I can have,
right,
and not agree on something and walk away from it. One of us is going to learn something, the other one's going to learn something, and then whether we could both walk away not in agreement, but both of us probably learn something from it,
right?
And we can understand it that way. And to me, it's what you're talking about is there's such a blatant. There's a blatant decision to not learn the other side of things. And like I said, because then you have to realize that what you've been identifying as might not be who you really are.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's true. Those are all very valid points, and that's where we got to get over the hump of. That's why I was like, I don't like that blatant ignorance, and I get where it comes from. And you're completely correct, Livio, where it all is stemming from. It's just like that blatant ignorance is it's mind blowing because we have so much knowledge at our fingertips. If you would just do the work, that's why I get back to the whole point of doing the work and getting outside of your echo chamber.
Yeah.
Right. You'll be okay. Because the thing about people who are centrists and people who lean more to the right, they step outside their echo chambers because they want to see both sides, right? When it comes down to the left and the progressives, they just stay in their echo chamber and they whip themselves into a frenzy.
Yeah.
And then
they're
rabble.
Absolutely.
You see it on both sides,
no matter
though.
what. And so like you said, but like you just said that people that are more in the center of things are seeing both sides of this,
right?
And you know that you're in the center, and you can tell when somebody's far left or leaning left or vice versa, right? Well, but it's linear with. If you're ultra conservative, you think that somebody who's more in the center is an ultra liberal because you're so far over there.
Correct.
That anybody this far over here, you can't tell the difference between the middle or the far left. Right. Because it's so far away from you.
Right.
You can't tell that your range estimation is off.
Right.
Because it's so far away. It's the same thing if you're ultra liberal. Anybody who's in the middle, they are so far away from you that they look like they're ultra conservative.
Yeah. Right.
And so it's so easy to label everybody else that doesn't agree with you.
Correct.
So as soon as you're pro-gun, you voted for Trump. Or as soon as you're, feel this way about the environment. Oh, it's created by this bipartisan fight that's going on. Right. They are intentionally keeping everybody split into two. Because if a central idea gets strong enough,
right,
they're both screwed.
Right.
Yeah. So
the divide and conquer.
So what they do is you have on the left side, they make the big scary orange man a racist and he's coming after this and that, and they make him into this horrible thing that you have to go and vote against. You have to go and vote against this guy or he wins and we're all going to die. Right. Versus the right side, they try to convince everybody that everybody in left's all pedophiles and they're coming after your guns, and you better vote against them or else they're gonna come do your kids and take your guns, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I agree with you. I get what you're coming right.
Okay. But you get what I'm saying. So everybody's so scared. They're scared.
Right.
To not vote against somebody that they refuse to vote for something that they truly believe in.
Correct. He's not wrong. They are doing that.
Yeah.
Both sides are absolutely doing that.
Both sides are absolutely doing that. But my thing is like,
all it takes is a little bit of justification.
Right.
So you come after our guns a little bit. Oh, that's all you got to do. I mean, they're saying a little bit now. I'm not saying that it's just a little bit now. Yeah, it's big time now.
It's a lot of it.
But
now.
But even in the past, like I'm talking about, like at any time,
historically,
like somebody's and so it's the same thing on both sides, man. Like they create this fear to keep everybody split right down the middle, and both sides want it done this way.
Right. And it is a divide and conquer situation, and I agree with you, but it's I get where you come from, man. Like it's like I don't want to. There's really no reason to either go into it anymore. I just feel like they did the whole situation. Orange Man's bad. The thing that I was trying to get to, I was trying to toss it in there real quick. Was I was gonna say, well, Biden said if you didn't vote for me, you weren't black. So you know, so it's just one of those things. But like,
dude, and
but have you
they openly put somebody in position as a running mate because she was not a white and a female. Like, you said that you're going to choose somebody to be your running mate based on their sex and race.
Not qualifications.
Not qualifications. You admitted to it.
That is...
And it's okay.
Racism. it is. It
is 100%, man.
They don't
Fuck,
see
we got all kinds of political, man. God damn it.
I'm sorry. I don't know if it was my fault coming on to the show.
No, we broke rule number 1. But it didn't get too bad, so it's okay.
No, I mean, listen, man. There's a lot of things that I don't like on both sides of that table, man.
Right.
There's a lot of things I don't like on both sides. And so we don't get any more political into this. I'm just going to say right now that I can go on about either side what I don't like. Mm-hmm. And I can go on about either side of things I do actually like, you know?
Right.
Maybe not specifically about the specific people involved.
Yeah.
But there are things that I get, man, on both sides of it. I definitely am in the middle, definitely lean one side more than the other. Mm-hmm. And I don't cringe as much when one side talks as much as I do when the other one does.
Right.
But I feel like I feel better now about the whole political shit now that I'm just going to put that out there like that.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. Like, so when you talk,
sorry, man, we brought you on here.
When you talk about amendments, right? When you talk about the founding of this country, it's unfortunately going to lean to being more of a political conversation
you're right,
because of what is inherently involved, right?
Because what's actively happening right now in the world.
So let's talk about, now that we're on that, now that we kind of got in that direction again. Thank you for doing that, Andrew. Let's talk about these upcoming possible laws that are going to be trying to get pushed into place. Okay. Man.
So the big one that I asked to come on here to talk to for the podcast was about the 94 ban, right? Yeah. So Biden is, when he was going around stumping for president, he was talking about the 94 ban, reinstate the 94 ban, how well the 94 ban did and everything like that. So what he wants to do, it used to be on his website when he was still going around stumping, right? When he was running for president. Now you can't find it anymore. I have it archived on my phone, where it was talking about what he wanted to do concerning legislation when it comes down to gun laws. And he is trying to strip us of everything, mainly the 94 ban, right? So what he wants to do is the 94 ban on steroids, right? So,
all right, so let's talk about the 94 ban real quick, so people that aren't aware of it.
So the 94 ban obviously happening back in 94 was Hillary and him were the two main writers of it, right? The 94 ban made the ownership, not the ownership, they banned AR-15s, right?
Right.
What was already in circulation?
Well, it was AR-15, like assault rifle types, right? Like what they called assault rifle
types, right? Right. So they were allowed to stay in circulation.
Semi-automatics,
right? And high-capacity magazines. That's another part of the 94 ban that was included, right? So he wants to reinstate all of that, but he wants to put it on steroids, right? What I mean by put it on steroids, he wants to make all semi-automatics.
There's not grandfathering anything in, is what you're saying.
There's no grandfathering anything in, and he wants to put all semi-automatics. That means semi-automatic shotguns, pistols, rifles, anything that's a semi-automatic, revolvers, anything that's a semi-automatic, he wants to classify it under the NFA, right? And
you have to get a tax stamp and everything in order to own.
So you have to pay $200 for every item.
For every item, right? So he wants to put a tax stamp on that, right? And a tax stamp on large capacity magazines. That's anything over 10 rounds, right?
So basically, if you have an AR-15 with 2 magazines, in order to keep those, you're now coming out of pocket $600.
Correct.
In order to keep those 3
but
items.
But it's something that you've owned for years.
That's the problem. Yeah.
Taxation without representation, right? Okay.
Wow.
So he's trying to do that, and this is why it makes me angry, right? So what he's doing is saying that if you have wealth, you're allowed to keep these things, right? Because most people don't have the money to either. So let's say
but that's the part I don't think he's paying attention to. Right. I think he's planning on breeding out, basically, like if we're talking like medieval times, like he's basically taking the idea of trying to breed out these guns by making them harder to own.
Access, right?
Making them trying to convince people. I believe that people that have been in that level of politics for as long as he has, or long as any of them have, like for decades, they lose grip of reality and they don't have a clue what it's like for the average American. They have no idea. But it's also why you see them start talking about their constituents, openly talking about constituents like they're subjects, not constituents.
Right.
They openly talk about their voters as their subjects, that they know more. Like they've openly said it, that we're making decisions for you because you're too stupid to make your decisions for yourself. Correct. So once you get to that point that you've been in that position for that long and you think that way, then you no longer realize that making this a real thing, you're making it harder for inner cities and people that are in the most dangerous areas to defend themselves.
Right. And that's the whole point I was trying to get at, is that he's making it impossible for people of lower income statuses to defend themselves, because he's saying he's allowing essentially only the wealthy. And that's what makes me angry about it. It's because you're hurting my community and other lower income communities who want to defend themselves, especially in the times that we live now with all the nonsense and chaos that is going on within the United States, and that is even brewing now, that you're potentially going to say that you're going to make it harder for people to protect themselves, taking away their Second Amendment rights, right? But you're not taking it away from them if they can pay the $200 for the tax.
But that's the thing is I don't think that he sees it as it's okay for the rich to have.
No,
he just doesn't have a grasp on the reality of what's happening. Now, what he can't see that we can see is
the ramifications.
Exactly right.
Right.
These neighborhoods where these are the neighborhoods that have the most new gun owners in them this year.
Right.
Because these neighborhoods are the ones that saw firsthand, nobody's coming to fucking save me.
Right. Yep.
I need to defend myself. These are the same neighborhoods now that are being attacked.
Right. And they use the guise of criminality to do it, to take these guns away. But as Jeff Goldblum said in Jurassic Park, nature provides.
I mean, either way, it comes around, man.
Right.
It's the same thing as like you said, they're trying to use crime and use that's why they use school shootings to go after AR-15s all the time.
Right. And even though
because they've taken this big scary thing that a lot of
people,
create a boogeyman, a lot of people don't care if they have or not, that they're okay with going away, and you make it the bad guy.
Right.
To go after.
Right.
Even though when you look at the numbers, there's less than a percentage of the people killed with firearms are killed by this specific gun. Right. So that's not going to save the lives of all the guns that you're all the people that are being killed. And it's not addressing where the most of the violence is.
Right.
That's not where this isn't the problem. The problem isn't coming from people that go to their local gun store, buy a gun, and take it home. That's not where the majority of these crimes are coming from.
Right. It's come from the illegal guns that are already on the streets,
that are shooting at each other.
That are shooting at each other. Right. So I agree with you, and we should have a way to defend ourselves in these communities. These minority communities should have a way to defend themselves. Right. So my thing is that he is making it harder for these communities to own these guns, and he doesn't, like you say, he doesn't see the effect that he has. He just sees that he's getting rid of a problem. Right. Now he's also trying to introduce with this 94 buyback plan on steroids is a mandatory gun buyback.
Right.
Kick rocks, dog. Like,
wait,
because you're gonna.
So basically, if you can't afford you already own these items. You can't afford the $200 for all of them. You have to go down there and sell it to the government. That's what they're saying.
Yep.
So what happens if you can't afford that $600 for that one AR and the 2 magazines?
Well, then all my guns are getting lost in a boating accident.
So that's the idea is, well, you can't afford it. You have to bring it to us so we can give you a couple bucks.
So this is the most nefarious thing out of all of it, right? Is that you have the weapons ban, right? The classifying them as new NFA items, right?
Yeah.
So what happens when you have all those guns on the NFA list? You have essentially created a mock registry.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what it is.
Which means
No, that's exactly what it is.
I know exactly what it is. So
They just found a loophole, a better way to word it.
which means they can come confiscate your shit.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the dangerous part about it. So my thing is with these gun with the 94 ban, no go, right? Then the NFA classifying them as NFA items, no go for me, right? I'm still not feeling it.
I don't agree with the first NFA items.
I don't agree with him.
no.
I don't agree with him either. So, but I'm just saying him trying to add to the NFA items that they would be, right?
Yeah.
And then mandatory buyback. My thing is that it is all leading to a gun registration and confiscation. That is the big grand scheme goal, and the only way we can fight against that is to tell our politicians, one, we don't want this. Two, we need to be able to organize within our community to make sure that we get the message out and educate people, because ignorance is the biggest weakness, right?
100%, bro.
So we have to.
This is why we're where we're at right now.
We have to educate family and friends. We got to give people the right knowledge, right? Because sometimes people just don't know, and when people don't know, they don't care to invest their time into looking into it. So when you hear somebody
or when it's going in the direction that they want it to go in,
right?
They don't want to know the other side of it.
So you just to have that person, if somebody spouts wrong knowledge, correct. Don't be a jerk about it, but correct that knowledge, right? Because the more correct knowledge that we have out there about people being informed about what's going on, even if they don't like it, at least they can have the correct knowledge out there. And some people might go, "Oh, okay, I didn't understand that was going down that way," right?
That's right.
So I feel like these are the big scary bad things. Is that 94 ban, because all I see it as is as a ad hoc,
and I don't see it being only 10 years.
Yeah.
It's a permanent.
Yeah.
It's not, the 94 was put in, and it was only a 10-year.
Right, because it had
what we talked about before. Like, we have to keep voting on it to keep it into place.
Right, it had a sunset clause in. That's the word I was looking for earlier when we were talking about it.
And without that, I mean, that's where it should be. You should have to keep voting on something like that.
Right.
But that's not how they want it, because they can't control you 10 years from now when they know people are like, wait, this isn't working, or this isn't fair.
Right.
Like, we want to get rid of it. It's too late.
Right. And I feel like a lot of people who bought guns during this whole situation a lot of them were women. A lot of the first time gun owners during this whole situation of, like, I think 7 to 8+ million people that bought guns for the first time.
Yeah.
A lot of vast majority of those were women. Vast majority of those, as you said, were in minority communities, right? Like that, doing gun ownership for the first time. I think a lot of them were not knowledgeable or didn't have the information, and I think they still voted a certain way.
Yeah.
That kind of fucked us all, right?
Yeah.
Because the biggest argument I always have from people who are against guns or who say about a certain politicians not trying to take your guns, bullshit, bitch.
Well, they were denying it while they were saying it.
They were
forever.
It was double speak.
It was double speak for years. And now they're not anymore.
Yeah, they're like, oh no, the Democrats aren't trying to take your gun.
No,
look at
and
the
now
legislation.
He says, bingo.
Yeah. Look at the legislation they've been passing for at least the last. Let's go back 50 years, right?
They said under the Obama administration, they kept saying over and over, nobody's trying to take your guns. But they were, because the same people that they were saying, no, that's not what they were saying. That's exactly what they were saying.
Yeah.
Word for word what they were saying.
Yeah, and there's videos of people, of politicians talking about the 94 ban when it first came out. It was like, if I could just took all your guns right now, I would have took all of them right now if I could, but I couldn't. So it's been a slow burn. They've been playing the game of attrition, right? Yeah. It's been a slow burn for like the past 40+ years of them slow burning and enacting these policies over time.
Yeah.
And over time to where they can finally take the mask off when Joe Biden was having that interview. I can't remember who it was, CNN.
Yeah. I don't know either, yeah. But
it was one of the major news networks, and they asked him about gun policies, and he was like, do you plan on taking all the AR-15 assault rifles? And he was like, bingo, like you said, right? So that's been the grand scheme plan the whole time. Now it's getting to the point where it can come into fruition, right? Because beforehand, there was the Republicans had a Senate majority, right? Potentially that might go away if Georgia depending on how Georgia plays out in the special election, right? So we had a way to kind of stop that, right, from a Republican end to where that bill could get introduced but get knocked back down, right? If they win and the House, the Senate is split 50-50, and then Kamala has tiebreaker, whatever legislation they want to get passed, dog, is going to get passed. Yeah. And then now, this is why I've been telling people when I talk about this type of stuff at work, I said, this is where we're going to find out where the real people at. What I mean by where we're going to find out where the real people at, because a lot of people that like to talk that talk, but ain't about that life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All these people like, oh, they'll never take my guns. I'll do this, that, and the other, that, and the other. And I'm like, all right, we're going to see where you sit at, dog. We're going to see
when they actually start picking your guns away.
Yeah, we're going to see where you sit at, dog.
Here's the thing is, and this is what I've always said too, look, things are going to get to a point to where I don't believe there's going to be this civil war fight, right? I think it's just every time I have this discussion with somebody who's like, it's going to be a big civil war, you know, they're going to bring the army in. They're not. You know who the fucking army is? Like, first of all, you know who the National Guard is? They're our friends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
right.
We know most of those guys in the National Guard, our local National Guard. They're not going to anybody's house to do that shit. They won't do it.
Nope.
They will not do it. What people don't realize also is our local cops, there's more threepers per capita in the cops, amongst the cops, than there are in the fucking citizens. So our local cops, especially the older ones, will never enforce that shit. They're not coming door to door. The only people that are going to be willing to do that are federal agents, the ones that are doing that bullshit right now. Mm-hmm. Like, what is it? There's reports that after this Polymer 80 raid, that
they're going to go.
I don't know if it's true or not, because it was like claimed that somebody claimed in the comments on something that the ATF came to their house afterwards.
Okay, so
we don't know if that's true or not yet.
I have the Firearm blog,
but see, that's the thing is that whole thing. They didn't arrest anybody and they didn't take anything.
Okay, so
except people's information.
Okay,
they got records.
So with the Polymer 80 situation, from an anonymous source, got in contact with the Firearm blog. They sent them the information. So according to the article that I read and that I kind of piggyback off of, was that they came to his house. They asked if he had said Polymer 80 buy, build, shoot kit, right? He said he had two options. This is core to him. He had two options. Either he could surrender it now, or the ATF was going to come back with a warrant.
And he gave it up.
And he has in the Firearm blog has the paperwork.
Yeah, I saw the paper.
Yeah. So
they gave him a receipt or whatever.
Yeah, they gave him a receipt or whatever.
A surrender.
Surrender. And it said the reason why they seized it. This was out of like Arizona. The reason why they seized it was because of the Polymer 80 investigation.
Right.
Right. So what happened with that effort? So when a part of that warrant was the seizing of records, right?
Right.
So they seized.
But that's all they took, though.
They seized sales records, right? So,
right.
So sales records are important because now you know who bought those.
That's right.
Who bought those?
So now you have basically registered all these people as owners of these handguns.
Right. So during that time that Polymer 80 was selling these buy, build, shoot kits, per the affidavit, there's about 50,000 that they sold. Right. Of those 50,000, I think about 400 plus were sold in California, which we all know that's a no-no because Californians aren't right. So that was no-no. And then another 200 after they cross-checked it with law enforcement databases, the ATF, they found out about 200 were sold to people who weren't prohibited to own them.
Permitted to own them.
Prohibited.
People that weren't.
Yes.
Permitted.
No, that were prohibited.
They were prohibited.
Were prohibited.
Yeah, whatever, man, I get it. Yeah. So, all right. There's a part of that where
Polymer 80 kind of fucked up there. Honestly.
Well, look. You have where the story's being told. We were talking about before, the story's being told in a couple different ways, right? So now the story is being told that they are that they're selling guns they're selling ghost guns, but they're not.
They're not.
Right. They're not selling ghost guns.
No.
And it's been, like the ATF has already said in a previous, like we already talked about all this. So where it goes now is it's the narrative.
Correct.
It's the narrative above all else.
Right.
What's really happening and what's being told to the people about what's happening.
Right.
They're two different stories.
Right. There are two different stories, and it is that narrative that they were selling ghost guns. So the ATF made the class. So per the ATF affidavits that I read from the warrant application to get the warrant to raid, right? The ATF made the determination that the buy, build, shoot kits were considered firearms, right? Like I said earlier, but I do not believe they were firearms, and that was one of the bases of the warrant. So one of the bases of the warrant was the buy, build, shoot kits, right? That it was a firearm. Let me look it up in the article here because I can have the article real quick.
So now, before this, like we were talking about, like while you look that up,
okay,
having something sent to your house, so something with the serial number on it, so like the AR lower or you know, the complete 100% polymer lower to a handgun or whatever it is, that's where the serial number goes because that thing is ready to be turned
100%.
into. Right. It is 100% ready to be turned into a firearm.
That's why
so that, with all the rest of those things, that's like mailing a gun to somebody.
Correct.
It's still not quite mailing a gun to somebody. It's not assembled ready.
I think you bring up a good point, though. We do need to clarify exactly why Polymer80, why we don't consider it a firearm.
Oh, I've mentioned
because
you still have to drill holes.
You still
in it
have to mill out the remaining 20% of the firearm.
Right.
Correct.
It's only and that's the thing is they give you everything that you need to do that, other than
the skills and the tools to do it.
You don't really need skills when it's in a mold.
Well,
like no, you set it in this thing and it tells you where the holes are. Like it's really easy. Yeah. But it's still not a goddamn firearm.
It's not.
So where they have with the definition that they've defined it themselves previously, and now that it fits their narrative, that previous definition doesn't apply now.
Right.
Because now they've named it something scary.
Right.
Now they've named it something that's easier to attack.
Right. And framing is everything, right? So, but like I said earlier, like I don't believe that it is, like I told you, for me to consider a firearm, it has to be ready to shoot as soon as it gets to my doorstep. And it's not ready to shoot as soon as you get to your doorstep. There's no way I can assemble that firearm and make it go bang. It ain't happening, dog. Because you have to mill out some stuff. You have to mill out the where the guide rod sits in the firearm. You're gonna have to mill out some of the top of the frame, and then you're gonna have to drill the holes. I'm not saying that anybody can do it. Anybody can do it who has any common sense, or who can look up a YouTube video about it. Right?
I mean, you can screw it up.
Yeah. You can screw it up.
Easily screw it up.
You can easily screw it up.
You sneeze and screw it up.
It's easily screwed up, but it is easily done. So the ATF, for when it comes down to the warrant for the raid, first the ATF states that the buy, build, shoot kits are firearms and not just parts kits. The ATF classifies firearms. Okay, that doesn't matter. Second, since these build kits are considered firearms by the ATF, Polymer80 did not follow regulatory guidelines on the transfer of handguns from FFLs to individuals. All right, so it didn't go through an FFL essentially. All right, and then third, the number of buy, build, shoot kits were sold to prohibited individuals, according to the investigation, about 200 or so. All right, so those were the three things that got them this warrant.
Right.
One, the ATF classified it as a firearm. Two, that they didn't go through proper regulatory channels,
right,
like from a FFL doing a 4473 background check, and then to the customer.
Yeah.
Right, and then that some of these were sold to prohibited people who were not supposed to have these things. So that was the purpose. That was the basis of that. Now, with those in the affidavit, they asked could they seize records. So they seized records from three different places. From one, Polymer80, two, Stamps.com. And three, what was the last one?
Stamps.com. Is that?
Yeah, Stamps.com. I think that's what it, let me check. It is, Stamps.com. So Polymer80, Stamps.com, and Authorized.net were the three that they got sales records for. Those records identified over 50,000 buy, build, shoot kits that were sold from Polymer80 to end users. About 1,500 of those were sold directly from Polymer80. About 200 of those were sold to residents in California. So I misquoted myself earlier when I said about 400. It was about 200 of those were sold to people in California. So it was a lot of stuff going on. And also in the affidavit, they did an undercover sting operation where they were trying to catch Polymer80 slipping. and a guy was asking about, oh, these are illegal in California. How can I ship these? How can you get these to me and all this other stuff? And there was a little bit back and forth between Polymer80 and the supposed customer, and it got to a point where Polymer80 was like, they were smelling a rat, and like something's up, and they kind of like stopped talking to that person because the person was emailing them directly, trying to buy something. So they kind of fished that one out.
Here's where, so like we were talking about with the narrative. This is where I wanted to go with this earlier, and I lost my place.
Okay.
With the media coverage on these ghost guns, calling them ghost guns, and making them into this big serious problem.
Okay.
Because criminals use ghost guns, right? They're always talking about the serial numbers being so important for law enforcement, so they can't be traced in criminal investigations. But what people don't realize is your serial number on whatever gun isn't what they use to trace the gun to you in the first place. That's not, unless you're registering it. But the fact that a lot of places don't require you to register it, it wouldn't matter if there's a number on it or not. It doesn't matter. Here in Nevada, you don't register your firearms. It wouldn't matter if it has a serial number on it or not, other than you being able to prove like, yeah, no, that's my gun. Yeah, chain of custody,
right.
Verify. Yeah, I used to own that or whatever. Like, but otherwise, it's nobody's business what serial number you have on your gun.
Right.
So when they're saying that they can't be traced in criminal investigation, that's not. There's a fingerprint on that a gun has that they use when they fire it to verify if it's the gun used in a crime, not the serial number. Like when a crime's been committed, they're not like it was number what. Like that has nothing to do with tracing a gun in crime.
Right.
Like nobody knows what the number is on in any crime that the gun was committed in. The only reason that they can link a gun to a crime is with that fingerprint that it leaves on a bullet. That's it. They can't link it based on the goddamn serial number because they don't know what the serial number is unless it is registered in somebody's name. And then they find that gun, find the number on it and go, okay, this is registered to this person.
Right.
But outside of being registered, a serial number it's unimportant, man, as
Right.
far as criminal investigations go.
Right. No, that's one thing they harp in on. Like, yeah, I get you, man. And the thing about with the Polymer80 situation, so the Firearm blog was only given, I don't know if they were only releasing bits and pieces of the warrant. I was only able to read about like 8 or 10 pages of the warrant, but it was the main stuff about the reason why they got the warrant, the information that they were using to corroborate their evidence of to justify the warrant and stuff like that. But I would like to read. It's over 50 pages. The whole warrant itself.
That's crazy.
I would like to see what they were.
It took 50 pages.
Yeah, it's 50 pages.
That's crazy.
Well, they had to make it sound really convincing.
Well, I mean,
Obviously, because you got to give it to a judge. So
They had to use a
gather.
bunch of big words too, so they can go back on it in 2 years.
yeah, so
Well,
they
like
had,
you said, like it's probably the importance of all this, I think, is what we want to focus on.
yeah,
The importance of this conversation that we're having today is, I want to reiterate for the people listening, the people watching, it's important to understand what's happening around us when it comes to, especially when it comes to people that are new to the gun community.
understanding your rights is important.
Absolutely. Understanding where the authority is and where the authority stops, and when that's being overreached. Correct. And in this situation, I believe it's overreaching.
Absolutely.
So I want to bring up what I brought up before, and I kind of want to start closing with this statement. I'll say it again. We don't know how many times the federal government has overreached their authority on people. We only know about those times when those people were armed and ready to defend themselves from the government overreaching. In Ruby Ridge, they convinced a guy to break the law, entrapment, and then they gave him the wrong court date so that he didn't show up to court. And then Rice, who they're bringing back on, that's a whole other story, said that it was okay to go check out this guy's house and go scope him out before they raided him. So these guys wearing fatigues and ski masks are walking around this family's property. So when a kid runs out with a gun, trying to figure out what these masked guys are doing, scooping around on his property, they shoot his dog. He fires back, kills an agent, gets killed himself. So now they surround this family, and they kill his wife, shoot her through the door, and kill her holding the baby. Like, all these things happened because they set this man up,
Right.
because they wanted information about this white supremacy group that he knew people in. So he was associated with white supremacists. That made it okay. That's why people were so like, it was so easy for people to look the other way, because, like, oh, this guy's just a white supremacist. But how does that have anything to do with what happened? It
Right.
doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
So the same thing happens with this group of people that have never hurt anybody in their lives. They have to lie about kids being abused there in order to raid their house.
Yeah.
Well, they go in guns a-blazing and get shot up and get people killed. And then when the man comes out with his hands up, they shoot his ass. So then it turns into a stand-up. Now it turns into this whole big old thing where the whole world is now watching.
Right.
And then here, not too far from here, you had a federal three-letter agency lying to people in order to enforce what they made up as rules, and they got caught lying about it, and they're killing the man's property. They're killing his cattle.
Yep.
They set up snipers around the guy's house when he went to defend his cattle from being killed. But then they lied about that. This is why he got off, actually. Recently, they finally let it off. But only because we only know about it because armed civilians showed up to defend the man. We only know about these incidences of the federal government overreaching with their authority because people were armed and ready to defend themselves. We only know about these incidents. How many people's lives have been ruined by the federal government overreaching with these three-letter agencies? So understanding why you have these rights, why the Second Amendment is important, why the First Amendment is important. You should be able to speak for what you believe in, whether it's nice or not, man. You don't have to be friendly, man.
It doesn't.
But just because you speak against a certain type of person and that you don't like it, doesn't mean that your other rights should be taken away from you. And it certainly doesn't mean that your right to say that should be taken away.
Preach.
But what we're looking at now today, I see it as it's an encroachment, man.
Straight up.
And it's coming a lot faster than we've ever seen it.
Right.
And it's important to understand that this isn't conspiracy theory shit, man. This is what we are looking at happening. They're openly talking about it now.
Right.
And it's not just the Second Amendment, like you said, it's the First Amendment, man.
Right.
And it's important that that as many people as possible are on the same page. So when it comes time, hey, turn these in, they can't arrest the entire county.
Right.
The entire county says, screw you, I'm not doing it. They can't arrest the entire state when the state stands up and says, no, I'm not doing it. They can't.
Right.
Then they won't.
Right.
Now, what I said about like local cops and federal cops, the difference there, I don't know how it is in a lot of other places. I might be wrong. You might have local cops that are willing to come and enforce this shit. There certainly are in California.
Yeah.
We're seeing them do it with certain things. I know how it is here, man.
Yeah.
And like I said, we were in the military. We know the military ain't going into nobody's fucking neighborhood and enforcing this shit.
All right.
It's not happening. Because they're your neighbors, man. That's your people. You would never follow that. The commanders wouldn't follow through with the orders that came down if they did.
Right. If they were strictly following the Constitution, which we swear an oath to,
That's right.
they would not. If they would not encroach on our rights, right? But that's saying if they are willing to stand for what they for fighting to defend this Constitution, right?
Right.
So that's more of a personal situation, right? It's going to come down to these personal. If it ever did get to that point, it's going to come down to the personal courage of those commanders and stuff like that who are ahead of these battalions and stuff like that, to be like, no, that's unconstitutional. We were meant to defend the Constitution, right? Then that's just a whole nother bag of worms.
So that's what I'd like to talk about real quick. Now that you brought that up, let me just say, we see a lot of people that we follow and a lot of the non-compliance, right? We see that a lot now.
Right.
Non-compliant.
Yeah.
I'm non-compliant.
Right.
There's a difference between non-compliance and non-conformists. So
Okay.
here's what I'm getting at. There are times where a non-conformist has to be non-compliant.
Correct.
But if you're just flat out, openly just saying, I will not comply, I'm non-compliant, you sound like an asshole. Sorry. But you're just saying, I'm not going to follow the rules. Screw your rules. I'm not doing it. But as a non-conformist, I will not follow where you're going. I will not follow where you're leading these people. And in doing so, I will not comply to this law or that law. But in so doing, I'm standing up for my own individual direction that I'm going. Now, a nonconformist are who have changed the world, man. Nothing changes without nonconformists changing them.
Right.
So everybody follows the same path, like a bunch of cows, moo, going in the same line, until one of them veers off. And then what happens? Half of them start splitting off, man.
Right.
And you got to chase that fucker down and get that fucker back. But this is exactly the same thing. If, like you were bringing up, this is what brings it up when you're talking about the commander's got to have that integrity to stick to what he believes in, right? And not conform to what looks like is coming. Well, once you have that person stand up, there will be more to follow.
Obviously.
I believe that.
It has to be that person that's willing to stand up.
But you have to have them stand up at the right time. Like I said.
Correct.
Now, the standing up is when the non-compliance comes into effect.
Okay.
Now you're being non-compliant. This is where standing up is.
Okay.
No, I will not comply. But you're not complying as a non-conformist, not a non-compliant person. You're not strictly just non-compliant.
Right.
Like, you're standing up for something that you believe in. And the timing is right. This is where things happen. This is where revolutions happen. This is where new ideas and big companies start. It's from somebody that says they think outside of that. No, I'm going to do this. Everybody says don't do that. Don't chase this. It won't work. The people that ignored that are the Elon Musks of the world, are the ones that are changing the world because they refuse to conform to the ideas that it can only go in this straight line.
Right.
Yep.
It's the same thing with our rights being encroached on. There's going to be enough people that stand up, and it's going to have to take enough people that say, no, I will not conform to this new idea of progressive ideology and wherever this is going.
Right.
It's turning into like a communist idea.
Oh, well.
So
the roots are there, but that's
right. But well, they think they are anyway. Yeah. And the idea for that to not work, it takes people to stand up. It takes people to stand together and come together and decide that, like, this is not going to work for us. Like, you do not represent us the way that we want to be represented.
Right. I agree with you, and that's the point I was making earlier when we were having this conversation, is that, yeah, it is going to take that. It is going to take that, but we're going to find out where people really stand. Because a lot of people talk, that's talk.
That's right.
A lot of people don't walk that walk.
That's right.
So we're gonna figure out where that is, and that's why I'm telling you, these next 4 years under Biden and Harris for the First and Second Amendment are going to be interesting because we're going to figure out if Americans are going to start standing up. Not even even if you're not a fan of the Second Amendment, let's see if you're going to stand up for the First Amendment. I want you to stand up for both, but let's see if you're going to stand up for the one that's before it first, right? Let's see if you're going to be willing to take a stance to be like, no, this is we have these freedoms and freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press. This shall not be encroached upon anymore, right? So we need to see if people going to stand for that, and then the Second Amendment's right behind it, right?
If the ATF comes to your house and says, if you don't surrender this to me right now, I'll come back with a warrant.
Get the warrant, dog.
Come back with a warrant, homie.
Get a warrant, dog.
That's it.
That's it. No question there. See, I've already...
Go get your warrant. We need, this is what, that's why when I read the same thing, he gave it to him.
Yeah, like, come on, dog. Like, why you
man,
give it up
what are you doing? This is why they. Well, we'll come back with a warrant then. Then do it. Wow, it doesn't mean I'm in trouble.
No.
It sounds scarier.
It does.
So they scared the man.
It does. Yeah.
Well, we'll come back with a warrant. Well, that sounds fucking scary. It's not. That doesn't mean you're going to charge me with shit.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I get charged with anything.
You didn't commit any crimes. You didn't commit any crimes.
So come back with a warrant then.
Come back with a warrant.
It's the same thing. Like, go ahead. But people don't want to come off as what do you call it? Like failure to fucking
comply.
No. Like not participate. What the fuck is the word? Help me out, Trevor.
I don't know what you're looking for. Right
So
now.
like
involvement.
No, so when the cops are like telling you like, hey, come over here, I want to talk to you, and you go ahead and
failure to cooperate.
Cooperate.
Yeah.
You're cooperating. People don't want to hear like failed to cooperate with authorities or whatever. Failed to cooperate, this and that, right? Nobody wants to be put in that category.
Right.
They're scared of being put in that category.
Right.
But and I don't either.
Not
If you look at Polymer 80's like, hey man, we've always cooperated with the ATF, and we plan to do so in the future. They've said that in their statement.
Right, correct.
They said, we've done everything in compliance with what the ATF has told us in the past. So this is all a big shock because as far as everything we were told, we were doing it the right way. So they're even saying, look, we're trying to cooperate here.
Yeah.
And you're still kicking us in the balls for it.
Q said the same thing. SB Tactical said the same thing. Everybody's
We've
like...
always cooperated. People don't want to be the ones that aren't cooperating, but at the same time, there comes a time, man.
Right. Yeah. No, like, the first thing I said when I read that article on the Firearms Blog, I'm like, dog, you're going to have to come back with a warrant.
That's
You're
right.
You're going to have to come back with a warrant.
Bring it.
Because I'm going to find me a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, hey, man.
We'll find all the letters written about it.
I'll come back with
the
a
problem
warrant.
is they'll get the warrant because it's part of an investigation.
Right. And I have no problem with them getting the warrant.
That's fine.
But you're going to come get that warrant
That's
first.
right. You're going to I'll make you take the extra steps because I don't agree with it.
Right.
So you do what you have to do to make it legal.
Right.
And that's I want more people to hear that story and go, dude, no.
Yeah.
Don't give your shit up.
Yeah.
Just because somebody scared you into giving it up.
That's kind of like when everybody was panicking about SB Tactical braces, and everybody's like, "Oh my goodness, now my rifle is illegal, and I don't know what I'm gonna do, and should I SBR and stuff like that?" And I was like, "I ain't SBR nothing.
Right.
Like I ain't SBR nothing. Like what?"
When I made this purchase, it was a legal purchase.
Yep.
When I built this gun, I legally built it as a pistol.
So what? No, I'm not.
Yeah, same thing, man.
I'm not SBRing anything.
Samesies.
Yeah, like
right here.
Like I'm not doing that. I'm not playing those games, man. I'm not playing the games of the legal jargon that they play with.
That's right.
That they play when they come down to classifying these additions or whatever else they want to call them on these weapon systems. Like clear language, precise, to the point. Play no games.
Yeah.
Because I have no games to be playing. Because I'm the one that likes to play fuck games. You want to play fuck games? We're all in the military. Let's play some fuck games, man.
Yeah.
Like that's why I'm gonna make you. That's why if that dude would have came to my door, the ATF days would have came to my door, I would have been like, "Hey man, give you your stuff." I'd be like, "No,
It ain't that time of day.
it ain't that time of day." Oh well, we're gonna come back with a warrant. All right, dog,
I'll
cool.
see you then, man.
See you then. All right,
then,
man.
baby.
Like I'm like,
Yeah.
get at me, dog. Like I'm not gonna play those games because
Yeah, man.
because
And that's what I think is. It's the fear, and that's what they're going to always use is fear, man. And that's where it only gets stopped when people stand up for themselves, and that's the only time we know about it.
Right.
Like I said.
Right. People are gonna buckle though. Most average Americans are gonna, like you said, that compliance situation.
Yeah.
They're just gonna cooperate and comply and be like, all right, man, like I didn't know at the time, what you need me to sign. Here, dog, is yours. You know what I'm saying? Most people are gonna be like that, and they're gonna get a lot of Americans like that. That's why I said in these next 4 years, we're gonna find out what people are really about, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like, my personal opinion, I could be wrong. It's just a prediction. My personal opinion, if this ban does go through, right, and people are going to be like, I think they're going to go after the big people first. What I mean by the big people, I mean like people where you can't question what they have.
Yeah.
What I mean by that, I love the dude, but Noir, Haley, Grand Thumb, people who have Iraqi veteran 8888, people who have big known collections of guns, to make an example of either you pay for all that shit or sell it back to us. That's when we're gonna find out what people are really about, because they're gonna use them to make an example.
Well, that's what they'd have to do.
That's what they would have to do.
They will have to do. They can't come after an average person
because the average person can I'm just gonna lie. I'm
but not just that. Yeah. But if you just started picking on an average person here and there, people are going to start standing up.
Right.
But when they see, oh, that guy gave in, and that guy gave in,
oh, I might as well just give in too.
Well, then people are going to follow in suit with that that conformist, right? They're going to conform to what is happening around them. So when those guys call to arms or fucking, they stick together, they stick to their guns, and everybody backs them up, then we'll see.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Then we'll see, because like I said, I feel like they're going to be the guinea pigs, because they can't deny, like most Americans, you know what I'm saying? There's like, oh, well, I don't have any guns, because most Americans can lie about it or do whatever else you like, or say, no, I'm not going to give you my guns.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody like Iraqi veteran Noir, Haley, Grantham, they can't deny what they have because it's on videotape. It's on their Instagram page.
It's very public.
It's very public. So they'd be like, no, dog, we know you got it. So you got two options.
Yeah.
Either you going to give me this, or you going to turn it in for mandatory buyback.
Right.
Or third option, they can stand up and fight, right?
Yeah.
So they got three options. So either we gonna see where they stand, because I know Iraqi veteran 88 is a big dude about the Second Amendment and defending against all rights, and I hope and pray, because my mother used to tell me this when I was young. You do not know what you're gonna do until you're put in that situation.
That's right.
So you can be saying all this right now.
Isn't it Mike Tyson that said everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face? Yeah.
So you can be saying this all right now, and like I said, I can be saying this all well now and good, but I already know on my end, I have already written letters to gun policy, right?
Yeah.
Firearm Policy Coalition. I've already written them a letter of where I stand. If such a situation, if somebody came to my house, ATF came to my house and said, hey, we want your guns, and I said no, I already have a letter pre-written up on my computer to the Firearm Policy. No playing no games. Gun Owners of America. Got you too, dog. I'm sending it to everybody, because I'm letting you know you ain't taking none of my stuff without a fight. Right. If I gotta be that one, I'm gonna be that one. And people, I'm just being prepared, because I already know the stance I'm prepared to take.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what stance they're prepared to take because they're not in that situation yet. You got to think about these things beforehand, because you got to understand, what are you willing to sacrifice, not only for your freedoms, but the freedoms of the next generation. I already know where I stand at, player. Like, I've already blatantly got it. I already got a letter that's written up for everybody, just different people. Gun Owner of America, Firearm Policy. I don't mess with NRA. I don't mess with NRA. I already got that stuff written up, because you got to know where you stand, and you got to be able to stand there with courage. I'm not saying that I'm not scared. Yes, I'm gonna be scared when the ATF come to my door, ask for my guns, because you know why? I don't want to give them up, and I don't want them encroaching on my freedom. But at the same time, I'm gonna stand strong in my confidence and with a little bit of courage, and say, go fuck yourself. Come back with a warrant to do whatever you got to do. You got to be that way.
Like you said, man, we'll see.
Yeah.
Andrew, tell everybody where to find you at, brother.
All right, so you can find me on the good old Graham on the Loadout Blog, right? Also have the web page. Now, the web page is under a different name. It's under Obsidian Concepts. I had a conflict of interest with another company that actually started up and bought the web domain. So, not the web domain, but they have the name under a business license. So I didn't want any conflict of interest under that situation. So I changed the name. So the website name is Obsidian Concepts. Obsidian Concepts, that's going to be the website. But when you put in Obsidian Concepts or the Loadout Blog into your web browser, it'll pop up. So if you put in the Loadout Blog, it'll pop up.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Cool. Yeah, we'll put links in. You got anything else?
I don't, man. You got anything, Brayden?
No, I think we had a pretty successful podcast.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you coming on. I know we got a little bit political, but I think we covered some very important things that are happening today, and that could be happening in the near future.
Yeah,
I feel like we got more real.
So just as all this goes, we're always willing to talk to somebody that doesn't agree with this. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we've said that since the beginning, man. And and like I'm welcome the discussion that has come on. We just don't really know anybody that would come on and have that full on conversation and bring that up. But so I don't want to get in my own
echo chamber. But at the same time, it's like I know that I'm open to ideas. I know that I'm open to hear other ideas, other opinions. Thank you so much for coming on, dude. Oh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man.
We really enjoyed having you on today, dude.
Yep. And thank you for everyone that was watching or listening on Spotify. Just so you guys know, if you do like what we're doing here and you want to support the channel, we are selling t-shirts now on our website, armwithknowledge.net. Just had a whole drop come in stock, so check those out.
We're each wearing a different one.
And we
right
are
now,
each wearing a different
Yeah.
one. We did not plan that either. That was kind of weird.
There's our own shirts now.
Yeah.
I'm glad we weren't wearing the same ones.
I know.
Too, man. That's cool. We got a variety.
That'd be weird. But yeah, that's
Cool.
it.
Hey,
And,
thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like it, subscribe to more, hit that bell notification when you want to be alerted when we do this again.
And run your drills, not your mouth.
Yep. Thanks, guys.